Today we're going to talk about one of the most entertaining thinkers from the ancient world that I have ever read, and this would be Xenophanes, of course. And as you can see here, I drew some little sunglasses on his face just to be funny. But yes, today we're going to talk about Xenophanes, the ancient Greek philosopher and poet. So basically, I'm going to go through some of the fragments that we have of Xenophanes' writing in Greek, and we're just going to look at some of the funny things that he said because I find it really entertaining. But first, let's start with talking about Xenophanes himself. So, this man was a Greek intellectual who probably lived from about 570 to 478 BC. Now, to help contextualize a little bit, he lives pretty much just before the time of Herodotus. Herodotus would have been born while this guy was really old, and so he lived just before just before the time of the Persian Wars, basically, or right around that time. So this man Xenophanes, he traveled a lot throughout Greece, and he came up with lots of smart ideas, many of which we won't cover here. But if you're interested, you can go and look him up. And he wrote a lot of poetry. And my favorite part about him is that he had a really great gift for making fun of people and roasting people, and that's why I entitled the video the way I did. But the thing that we're going to focus on here is his collection of writings about the divine, about deities, about gods. He's most famous for claiming that people's ideas about the gods from his time were really stupid. He just seemed to give those ideas no credibility whatsoever. And we're also going to talk about his belief in the one divine being. So I don't know if that really makes him a monotheist in the strictest sense, but he does seem to think that there is a God that actually controls the world. But he doesn't give a lot of credence to the polytheism of his day. So let's start with the first quotation of Xenophanes, and I think this might be the funniest one, so I put it here first. And this is a quote in which he makes fun of Pythagoras. Of course, everyone knows him from school as the guy that invented or discovered the Pythagorean theorem to figure out to talk about triangles and things like that. Sorry, I just got a text on my phone. And the interesting thing about Pythagoras that I didn't know before I read a little bit about Xenophanes was that apparently Pythagoras believed in reincarnation. It was part of this theology that he believed. So he thought that souls would enter into new bodies after each lifetime, and so the existence of the soul would just go from one body to another. And evidently Xenophanes thinks that this idea is pretty ridiculous, otherwise he wouldn't quote this little story. But in any case, we can see here that Xenophanes talks about a story of Pythagoras walking along the road, and then he sees a puppy being beaten. And I'll just read the quote here. And they say that once, as he, Pythagoras, was passing by a puppy being beaten, he felt pity and spoke these words, "Stop, don't beat him, since in truth it is the soul of a friend. I recognized it when I heard him yelp." So, Xenophanes, I guess, inherited this story about Pythagoras. I don't know if other people made it up in order to make fun of Pythagoras' idea of reincarnation, but whether Xenophanes made it up or whether he got it from other people. In fact, I would imagine that he did get it from somewhere else because in the poem itself, Xenophanes asserts that he is quoting other people. So, supposedly, Pythagoras went along the road, and he sees a puppy being beaten, and he feels bad for it, and apparently the puppy can bark, and somehow Pythagoras is able to tell that the soul inside the puppy is someone that he knew before, which I just find really funny. I'm curious about how the ancient audiences would have responded to that. So as you can see, poor Pythagoras, I'm sure he's all sad that he got made fun of. But in any case, let's go on to the next quotation. So, and the fun part is that Xenophanes doesn't just make fun of Pythagoras. He makes fun of other really important Greek writers like Homer and Hesiod, and these guys pretty much found the idea of Greek literature. But nope, Xenophanes thinks that they have bad ideas too. So let's see what Xenophanes has to say about the gods, specifically the Homer and Hesiod's concepts of the gods. And I'll try to stumble my way through this Greek here. It says, Panta theois anethekon Homeros the Hesiodos te hosapar anthropoisin onedea kai sogos estin. Kleptein moikeoin te kai alelus apateoin. So the translation of this goes like this. To the gods, both Homer and Hesiod have attributed everything, the sorts of things that to men are a reproach and a flaw, to stealing, committing adultery, and even deceiving one another. Oh, and this is a translation I made. I shouldn't have written this too right here. That was a typo, so just disregard that part. But in any case, the meaning is clear. Xenophanes is trying to figure out why is it that Homer and Hesiod describe the gods and say that they're so great and that they're very mighty and so far beyond humans, but they do all the dumb, bad things that humans do. They steal from each other, they commit adultery, and they deceive each other. And this seems to be very puzzling to Xenophanes. I suppose in his mind, gods that are worthy of worship shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. But that's just the way that the Greeks portrayed the gods back in that time. So, going along with that general point, Xenophanes has a lot more to say about why the gods seem to act a lot like people in Greek mythology. And fortunately, we have a church father, Clement of Alexandria, who lived in the I think early 3rd century, more or less, of the Common Era. And Clement actually quotes Xenophanes a few times, and we learn a little bit more about Xenophanes' ideas about the gods from these quotes. So let's see what Clement quotes Xenophanes as saying. But mortals suppose that gods are born, wear their own clothes, and have a voice and a body. So Xenophanes is mocking the idea that people have, that gods are just like super versions of humans. They're just supermen. Because apparently the gods can be born, they just wear clothes, and they have bodies, and they talk. They're just really powerful humans. And again, Xenophanes thinks that that's ridiculous, evidently. And again, Clement quotes pretty much one of the greatest little statements that Xenophanes has, and you might have heard this one. A lot of people quote this. And here Xenophanes says, But if horses or oxen or lions had hands or could draw with their hands and accomplish such works as men, horses would draw the figures of the gods as similar to horses, and the oxen as similar to oxen, and they would make the bodies of the sort which each of them had. So in other words, the gods that humans imagine look like humans just because humans tend to anthropomorphize the gods. They conceive of the gods as being like humans. And Xenophanes is saying, what are the odds of that? What are the chances that the gods are actually just superpowered versions of us? I mean, if horses did the same thing, if they could draw and talk like we do, then they would just, draw their gods looking like horses, and the oxen and the lions would do the same. And so this is part of Xenophanes' major critique against the polytheism of his day, the anthropomorphizing of the deities of his day. So, does this mean that Xenophanes was some kind of an atheist or something like that? A lot of people quote him as if he's some kind of anti-religious figure or something like that. But when you really read his fragments, that's not the case at all, actually. He does believe in the divine. He does believe that there is intelligence running the world and managing the world, and that there's an explanation behind things. He just doesn't think that the polytheism of his day is correct. So here's a pretty good quote. Again, we can see that in the Greek it really shows what his views of the divine really are. So here it goes. Heis theos, ante theoisi kai anthropoisi, megistos, uti demas thnetoisin homoios ute noema. So as you can see right here, I made a little translation of it. And what Xenophanes believes himself is the following. There is one God, and among gods and men, he is the greatest. Nothing like mortals in bodies or thought. So unfortunately to people among the new atheists, you can't really use Xenophanes to defend your views, because really all he does is criticize what he thinks are incorrect beliefs about the gods of his times. But clearly he does believe in God, and I'm interested in whether he just thought there was only this one God and that the other gods that he criticizes the conceptions of are not real, or whether they're just misrepresented. Because here you can see he seems to say that this one God is the greatest among the gods and men. So it could be that Xenophanes is a polytheist, but he thinks that this one God is really where things get done, that this is the ultimate explanation of everything. So I hope you enjoyed this little examination of some of Xenophanes' fragments. I hope you enjoyed it. When I make these videos, I try to make the original languages as accessible as possible. You know, that's why I try to quote these sources and include the translations, and sometimes make translations of my own. Of course, I always welcome any comments and suggestions, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a nice day.